breaking news, and breaking hearts. Aww. This is the Steve Malzberg Show.
Mr. Bundy does not speak for the Republican Party. Mr. Bundy is an individual in Nevada who was dealing with the Bureau of Land Management with grazing issues. Those were his issues. What I take exception to, however, is this sort of feeding frenzy in the media talking about, oh, Mr. Bundy came out with these racist comments and he somehow embodies all Republicans. I look back at an individual who is the Senate Majority Leader, who is from Nevada, who referred to President Obama as a Negro who was light-skinned, who wouldn't be offensive. I look at the Vice President of the United States, who said that he was clean and cut and fresh. So if Democrats want to try to tar the Republican Party with one bigot, with one racist in Nevada who's a rancher, I suspect we ought to take a look at the Senate Majority Leader from Nevada who used the Negro word in very demeaning terms that I think the media gave not only Harry Reid, but the Vice President a pass on.
All right, Ron Christie, ladies and gentlemen, welcoming you back to the Steve Malzberg Show. And boy, he told it like it is to Carol Costello. So did Sean Spicer, the head of communications for the RNC. Joining us now, I'm happy to say he's back, Dylan Byers, media columnist for Politico.com. Hello, Dylan.
Hello, how are you?
Good, good, good. You heard that soundbite, I hope?
I did.
Okay, good. Ron Christie, Carol Costello had them both on CNN, to talk about how, the Republicans are in trouble because this farmer, who many Republicans supported based on his beef against the government, went on to say some racist things after they had supported him for that. Christie, he's exactly right. Joe Biden, while running for president, not only said the Pakistani comments and the Indian comments about 7-Eleven, not only said that education in D.C. is worse than in Iowa because you got more minorities in D.C., but he also said Obama was the first clean black to run for president. I mean, if a Republican said one of those, it would be another macaca moment.
Right. I think it's ridiculous to suggest that one individual can speak for an entire party on absolutely any issue. Certainly, Cliven Bundy does not speak for the Republican Party. Now, I will say what he said about race probably is a little bit more egregious than what Vice President Biden said about race, but that's sort of beside the point. I mean, I think the real point here is you can't put an entire party's identity on a single individual. Now, that said, it's also true that there were certain right-leaning media organizations that certainly championed Bundy's cause. So in a way, they sort of inadvertently walked into this by choosing to make a folk hero out of a guy who they probably didn't know, but turned out to have some pretty archaic views on race in this country.
Right, but as you said, I mean, one thing really has nothing to do with the other. Now on this latest incident with the Clippers owner, there's a battle going on kind of, is he a Republican, is he a Democrat? And Republicans, I guess, struck first and said, here's his campaign contribution list, and it's all to Democrats. And then somebody tweeted out from the LA Times, I think Michael Hiltzig, and I think it's been confirmed independently by somebody that, yeah, he's a registered Republican, even though he's given all the campaign contributions he's given to Democrats. But you see, it's this ongoing battle. But I haven't heard the mainstream media, try to blame the Democrats when it was first revealed who he contributed to have the head of the DNC on to say, well, now you have a problem.
Right. Well, again, and I think, look, when it comes to this issue of trying to fault entire political parties for the actions of one individual, how much that sort of thing gets pushed through the media is going to be a result by, A, how proactive the political committees are, whether that's the RNC or the DNC, and then also how receptive the media is. Now, is it fair to say that the media maybe is quicker to jump to fault Republicans for this sort of worldview? Maybe. It's also true, as we said already, that right-wing media outlets spend a lot more time sort of champion Bundy's cause. I think the real issue here is just that whether it's Bundy, whether it's Sterling, I mean, the remarks are terribly egregious, especially in the case they don't need to be politicized. They're just wrong. And the issue with them is less one of whether that's a Republican problem or a Democratic problem or whether any of these individuals speak for political parties. The real issue is just that it's not something anyone should condone. But of course, it's Washington, and Washington is always going to rush to politicize every single issue to try and turn something to its advantage.
Right, except we're talking about the media. And just one more question before we get to your piece, which is very interesting on you predicting the death of Sunday news shows, which will leave me crying. But the Biden comments or the Reid comments, calling Obama a light-skinned Negro. I mean, George Allen said macaca. And I never knew what the heck macaca meant, and he was drummed out of politics. But Biden, nobody even said boo about Biden's remarks that were one right after the other during the 08 campaign, and nobody said boo really, or there've been no repercussions for Reid's comments. I mean, do you see the double standard?
I certainly see that there is an issue there of different treatment in terms of how much hay is made out of those remarks. No question. Now, it's also important to note that each thing happens on a case-by-case basis. But yeah, it's very hard to look at Biden and Reid's remarks and sort of the relatively low reaction that there was to those versus the reaction to Bundy's remarks and not see evidence of some sort of double standard.
Okay, cool. Let's go on to your piece at Politico.com from the other day, and you say that Meet the Press, Face the Nation, and This Week have such problems attracting viewers, attracting newsmaking guests rather, that nobody wants to watch them. I would have thought it would have been the opposite. I would have thought they get the guests, but but the ratings are dropping off.
Well, what's happening, and this is in the big conversation about the Sunday shows right now are the problems that Meet the Press and David Gregory.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
There's sort of a bigger issue at play, which folks hadn't really been talking about until now, which is that the truth is that the Sunday shows in general just don't command the sort of influence that they used to command. Now, in terms of ratings, the ratings have gone down a little bit, but they're still strong. It's still a very powerful platform in the media landscape. So we shouldn't understate its importance there and its reach there. The issue is that these Sunday shows used to drive the conversation in Washington. The presidential administrations, congressional members, they would strategize. They would meet on Friday. They would say, all right, who are we putting out on the Sunday shows? And whatever they did on the Sunday shows, that would drive the headlines on Monday morning. And really, with a few exceptions here and there, you really don't see that happening anymore. And so the problem for them is, how do they still sort of command the news cycle when we have so many different media outlets, when we have everything online, when we have 24-hour cable news, when a lawmaker or a presidential administration can make news simply by sending out a tweet? I mean, it's a big challenge for them.
Interesting, because like I said, I would have thought that it would have been the other way around. But you think that they're putting out that the administration and the top leadership in the House and the Senate on both sides, they're now reluctant or don't really care as much about sending the big names out to these shows? That's what you're saying, right?
Right. Well, they don't care because they don't have to care. It's not the sort of sacred space that it used to be. I mean, certainly it's one of the smarter hours on television. If you want to see smart people, influential people talking about the issues that matter, yes. There is no place I would recommend you to go more than Meet the Press, Face the Nation This Week. The problem is that that's all it really is anymore. It's an hour of smart television about smart topics, but it is not the sort of news-making, agenda-driving platform that it used to be. And you can see it. I mean, the White House doesn't send people. The Bush administration used to send Vice President Cheney there all the time, Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. Biden, former Secretary of State Clinton, Secretary of State Kerry, we don't see them going on the Sunday shows nearly as much as we saw members from both the Bush and the Clinton administration.
And you're right. You point out in the last paragraph of your piece that Mike Rogers, Senators McCain and Durbin made a combined 38 appearances on these three shows in 2013, and that's not counting the other shows too. And I think McCain holds the single record on every one of those shows. So you're right. You're really onto something. But let me ask you this: the David Gregory thing. We got about a minute left.
Sure.
I mean, now NBC is going to bat for him, saying this story's not true, whatever. But I mean, how do they get away with having a shrink evaluate him and then it goes public?
Yeah, I got to tell you, that was just a huge sort of PR fiasco for NBC. I don't think they saw the piece coming the way it did, and the truth is that what this psychiatrist was, he was somebody who's basically just trying to get a better sense of David Gregory's personality, because the problem David Gregory has is he doesn't appeal to viewers. Viewers don't like him the way viewers used to like his predecessor, Tim Russert. But the whole thing is just blown up. It makes it look like David Gregory's crazy, like he's unlikable. And it's a serious problem, and there's sort of this mounting pressure to fix the problem at NBC.
Yeah. Hey, listen, Dylan, thank you very much. I hope you'll come back. I look forward to it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Dylan Byers, ladies and gentlemen, media columnist for Politico.com here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Very, very interesting, and good for him, admitting that the bias in the media, to a certain extent, in his mind, does exist, or certainly looks that way. We're coming back with Give Me 5 right here on the Steve Malzberg Show.